Welcome back. Happy New Year. Today is January 15th. It's been a while since I posted last, but the tomato plants are still alive. I have been top watering them just to get them wet, putting a little bit of distilled water in the tray. I have been distracted, lazy, whatever you want to say, but the plants are still alive and I have fruit. There's a tomato there. That's a yellow pear. Yellow pear. Yellow pear. There's a few of them there. And then I don't know what that one is, but it's growing. And then I got a little one growing right there. So I am going to put these into the buckets, as I previously said, finally, and get those set up in here. And here's our buckets. Now we just have to lay them out into the pattern I'm going to lay them out in. And through the power of editing, this is the layout we're going to go with. This is going to fit inside of the tent. And directly in this orientation. These buckets are going to be, I think I'm going to lay them out at 14 inches on center, and I'm going to PVC pipe in between them all, and I'm going to do a gravity feed. So like this first bucket, I'm going to use that with a lid on it, and that's going to determine my depth of nutrients in the other ones. The way I plan on doing this, because I don't want to do any water flowing stuff other than down towards the bottom, is I'm going to rely on gravity. I'm going to use this bucket. I'll fill this one up. The other buckets will go up to the same level. And what I'm going to do is, let me grab the bucket baskets. With the bucket basket here, my rock wool cube that the tomatoes are in right now will sit in that. And what I will do is, I bought some cloth rope, and I'm going to try a wicking system. So these buckets will not be full of nutrients. They'll have nutrients in the bottom, and I'm going to try and wick the water and the nutrients up and see what happens. This is trial. I've never done it this way. I always did ebb and flow, where the water came up, got to a certain height, and then drained all back out again. So for inside, this is what I'm going to try. And here's my parts. I got a stick of 3/4 inch PVC, schedule 40, a bunch of PVC fittings, T's and 90s. Instead of cutting the PVC pipe with a saw, I picked up a tubing cutter, or pipe cutter. I got my lid for the first bucket, my fill bucket, and I've got my cotton rope. To keep the light out and keep the water from growing algae in the nutrient water, I was going to tape the buckets and, to block the light. I didn't want to go through taping it all, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover the top of the buckets and drape the covering down on the sides to kind of just block the light out on these buckets and see what happens. I've marked all these buckets with a mark at 2 inches up to the center, and I'm going to drill them out, and I will put in some uniseals to push the PVC pipe through. You can see I already started with one there, and this is what it's going to look like with the uniseal in. There's a hole drilled and a bunch of mess to clean up. 4 more buckets to go. Alright, all 6 buckets are drilled out, cleaned out, and now we just have to install the unistrut. The uniseal. So the way this works is you push it in up to this lip, and then when you force the pipe through, it expands this and it pinches against the outside wall here, creating a seal. I don't think I'll be able to do this one-handed. Look at that. Got it in. So that's the outside. And there's the inside. I'm going to put the rest of them in and I'll be right back. Alright, with my buckets roughly laid out, now I can lay out my PVC fittings in the locations where I need T's and 90s to figure out what I'm going to need for pipe lengths. This is just a rough layout right now, and I will get it all laid out the T's and fittings first, and then lay out or measure for my pipe cuttings. Alright, I think this layout's going to work. So this bucket over here, I'm just going to come over and in. And so it's going to tee into this one. This will tee into this branch. That'll go 90 into that. Come across, tee in, come over to this tee, and this tee will just go in from this one to this one. And that'll connect all these buckets together, and whatever elevation of water nutrient solution I have in this bucket, those will all gravity level out to the same height as this one. The next step is cut little short pieces of pipe to go into each one of the buckets, and then lay out the buckets the dimension I want on center away from each other, and so I can measure the pipe in between all the fittings. Something I just realized, the pipe I've used in the past is not scheduled 40. I was not paying attention at the store, but schedule 40 is still going to work. Alright, I made my pieces that are going to go into the bucket, 3 inches long. I go ahead and marked out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of them. And now I'm going to try and use one of these, which I have never used before. Interesting. There we go, 6 of them cut out. Now I just have to put them into the fittings that are going to the bucket. I will not be gluing these. These are going to be push tight, friction fit. And I've done this before, and sometimes they'll leak. Most of the time they won't. I'm going to hope that they won't, because I don't want a mess in the bottom of the grow tent. But I also don't want to glue them because I don't want a permanent fixture. I want to be able to take it apart and put it back together. And I usually have pretty good luck with this stuff sealing up. So there we go. First part pushed in. Now to put each one of these fittings into their buckets. One thing that helps get these pipes through the Uniseal is you can taper these edges. The other thing that helps is if you lubricate the inside with the of the Uniseal, a little bit of spit, something that's not going to, no chemical or anything, because we're going to be putting plants and nutrients in here. So a little bit of spit, I just put on my finger, rub it around the Uniseal, and some force, and these will push right in. All right, those are in. This one was a little bit of a hassle to get in because of 2 buckets, but those are all in. Now to measure between this fitting and that fitting to cut my pipe to length between. Same thing there. And then this one is going to be 2 short pieces with a T in it, and then that piece has to go into it. So I will measure between this fitting and this fitting first, because that dimension should be the same as this dimension. I can cut 2 of those. Okay, there we go. Everything is all tied together. I do not have this one pushed in yet. I don't want it pushed in until I get all the buckets in there, because it's going to be hard enough to get those fittings pushed tight. They are quite tight. They are friction fit, but that's what we got, and that's what we're going to do. Next thing, pull those out, get this stuff sitting in there and see how it looks. And there we are. The buckets are in the grow tent. I can still easily get in here, access my fill bucket. I will have to rearrange my lights. I may have to add a light or go with a bigger light, something to cover all the buckets. Make sure they're all sitting down flat. I think I have to tweak the buckets a little bit because I don't want them twisting on the uniseal. So I'll make sure they're all tipped down properly and sitting flat. So that's my next step. Okay, here we go. We got the fill bucket, we got the 5 bucket pots. We gotta take the plants from the cubes, or with the cubes, and drop them in each one. And then that's it. Fill up the reservoir with water, let it fill in. Actually, I just thought of something else I forgot. So here's what I forgot. I forgot that I was gonna do a wicking system. So I have some 1/4-inch cloth rope that I'm gonna that I cut. It's weaved through, and it just dangles down, and that's gonna dip into the nutrient solution at the base, and hopefully wick it up. So I am gonna try this. I'm gonna dump some water in there, try to get the level up, and see if the water starts to wick up to each one of those net pots to see if it's going to work. I will let you know. Alright, while we wait for the water to see if it wicks up the rope, I have taken 4 gallons of water, dumped it into this bucket, and it has made its way all the way around and leveled out. So the elevation of the water in that bucket is about the same as the elevation in this bucket. And I have no leaks. I have found no water coming out of any of my fittings. My hands are dry. So, next thing is wait for the rope to see if it capillary action wicks the water up to the bottom of the net pot where the rock wool cubes will be sitting. None of the stuff I use is sponsored. I buy all my own stuff. These are all my own tools. And this is what I used for today's project. I used a step bit, or a vary bit they'll call it, step bit, to drill my holes in the buckets for the Una seals. And then this is just a tubing and pipe cutter. No special brand. I just picked up one of the cheapest ones I could. I think the capillary action is going to take too long. I'm not going to wait for it. I'm going to end this video here, and I will pick up with the results on the next video. Thank you for watching.